water plays an essential role in nearly every faith around the world. Join us as we explore some of the mystical insights into the biblical text and Hebrew language for further insight into water's spiritual significance, as well as a deeper understanding of its use as a powerful tool that can help us to live more balanced and meaningful lives. Shalom everybody, and welcome back to Old Soul Torah. Today's topic is the spiritual role of water. And before we go any further, we have to look at when was water created itself. Okay, so many people would assume, of course, water was created during the 7 days of creation, or Sheshet Yemei HaMaaseh, the 6 days of creation plus Shabbat. But during the 7 days, water was created. On what day? On the second day. If you go into the AI search engines out there, I even tried it. I said, when was water created according to the Bible? And it said the second day. However, that is problematic because God never created water. If you look at the text closely, he never created water on the second day. It was already there. All he did was divide it. As the text reads, God said, let there be an expanse or a firmament, a rakia, in the midst of the water, that it may separate water from water, implying the water was already there. God made the expanse, he made the space, and it separated the water which was below the expanse from the water which was above the expanse, and it was so. So as we can see, everybody, that water was already there. And our mystics, our rabbis, our sages say that water is one of the elements we have within our universe that is pre-creation, that is part of primordial creation. Therefore, it has very, very, very potent spiritual properties. And if you really think about it, every religion and spiritual tradition on the planet throughout history has always used water in their rituals to imply transition, change, renewal, rebirth, growth, transformation. Every single religion in the world uses water as a change of status. Why water? Because it's an element that came from before creation. It's part of the primordial creation. Now, let's go back to the text. Where do we see in the text that water was already there? It's part of the primordial state of creation. Where do we see it? Let's go to verse 2. This is a description of the primordial creation where it says the earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep waters. And the Spirit of God, Ruach Elohim, was hovering, merachefet, over the surface or the face of the waters. And here it is, the mention of waters, even before the first day of creation when God says, let there be light. The waters was already there, folks. So obviously, there is a deep, deep connection between water, an element that was found pre-creation, and our spiritual life here on earth, because we're always using water as a source of renewal and changing of status and transformation. So the question now is, what does the text, or what do our sages teach us that is going to be very crucial for us and our understanding of not just water and when was it brought into the creation, but life itself. The whole role and purpose of a human being is all going to be brought to the surface with the exploration of this topic, the verses, the text itself, and the Kabbalistic understandings. So folks, let's begin step by step. Before there was a universe, it was just God. And in the Tanakh, in the text, it says, I am God, I do not change. So how can God create a universe that would require growth and evolution and change if God himself does not change? God just is. So it's a little bit of a dilemma, right? How does God create something that is opposite to his own nature? So before God created the universe in 7 days, and everybody, we all understand 7 days to mean 7 tkufot, 7 cycles. The whole idea of the 7 stages of creation would require growth, evolution, and change. But before that could happen, God had to create change itself. God had to create the idea of change. So when God had to create change, that's the face of the deep, right? That's the face of the deep. It's unshaped, it's unformed, it's chaotic, it's void, empty of direction. In other words, it's neither good nor evil. The idea of change is just there, but change without direction is dangerous. It would defeat the whole purpose of why God created the universe. Change on its own may not necessarily be good change. Change can be destructive. Change can be dark and evil. And that's why when God created the idea of change, it says, V'ruach Elohim, the Spirit of God, merachefet al pnei hatehom. It's that God, the Spirit of God, has to be directing and guiding, and therefore it's hovering over the face of the deep. So here we have a very, very crucial insight about creation and life in the universe itself, is that it's not random. It's not just without purpose. It isn't without meaning. Nothing is random. The Spirit of God hovers. Now the word merachefet, for hovering over the waters, that merachefet is in Hebrew, it is in the present tense, unlike the rest of the words around it, implying that the Spirit of God is ever present, that continues perpetually on an ongoing basis to direct and guide and lead all the growth and change that is happening here on the planet, be it on a biological level, on a level of society, a social level, on an individual level, on a national level, on a global level. The Spirit of God is present, leading and guiding all change, growth, and evolution. We see that guidance, that direction, and that leading in the first act of creation, let there be light. This is God's light. God's light is behind each and every thing in this universe. God's light gives life, it animates, it directs, it leads. And that's why in the second stage of creation, the second day, it says the waters were separated. Because in order for growth to take place, you need polarity. And in the mystical tradition of Judaism, the separation of the waters represented the creation. It was creating the polarity, because it says that the upper waters desire the lower, and the lower desires the higher. And that desiring of those two opposite polarities, in that desire, that's where life happens. That's where growth happens. And on the third day, that's when land was created, which means something solid. Not everything can be fluid and changing all the time. Life is a balance between fluidity and that which is solid, some sense of permanence, change and permanence. That's what animates our entire existence, and that's what you see in the first 3 stages of creation. Did you know the Hebrew word for water, mayim, directly mirrors the above H2O is an image of a water molecule consisting of 3 atoms binded to each other. Notice the shape of the 2 hydrogen molecules to the right and to the left in white, binding themselves to the central red molecule of oxygen. Now below it is the Hebrew word for water, mayim. Notice how the Hebrew word mirrors the actual water molecule with two identical Hebrew letters of mem to the right and to the left, binding themselves to the central Hebrew letter of yud. Now let's take things a step further. Let's determine what the molar mass is of a singular water molecule. To calculate this, we need to connect the atomic masses or atomic weights of all the atoms within the molecule to reach that number. Here it is done for you. Total the elements and voila, you reach the number 18, which spells the Hebrew word chai, translating as life or living in English. Our sages often use the two terms mayim and chai, water and life, interchangeably. The Hebrew word chai is a popular Jewish symbol often associated with good luck, blessings, and protection. So much so that even non-Jewish celebrities are often spotted wearing it. The origin of a Hebrew chai symbol can be traced back to ancient Jewish mysticism and numerology. As every Hebrew letter of the alphabet is assigned a numerical value, chai is made up of the Hebrew letters chet and yud, which have a numerical values of 8 and 10, giving us a sum total of 18, which is also the combined weight of the atomic mass units of a singular water molecule. So now we return to the concept of water and its role in ritual that is found in nearly all religious and spiritual faiths across the globe. And the idea that we need to understand is the following, is that according to the Zohar, everything in the physical world has a spiritual counterpart. There's nothing in the physical world that doesn't have its partner, its spiritual counterpart that exists in a different realm, in an upper realm. So when one takes a physical action here in this world, it has a corresponding effect in the spiritual realm. And so because we are made up of both body and soul, there are certain physical actions we take here in the physical world that benefit us spiritually. So our sages teach us something very interesting, that besides water, there was something else that preceded the 7 days of creation. And that was a different concept. Aside from the concept of change and growth, there's a concept of correction. That is called in Hebrew teshuvah. So teshuvah literally means to return back to in alignment with who you really are. Because when we live in a free will universe, and God gives us the gift of free will or free choice, we will make wrong choices. We will make mistakes. Human beings are by nature subject to flaw. And so what would be necessary for, aside from change and growth, is the ability for one to change status. And that is something that is literally in our oral tradition, in the Jewish tradition. Teshuvah and water. So now we take these two concepts and we bring them together. And the idea that every physical action has a corresponding effect or influence in the spiritual realm. And we see that when we use water as ritual together, coupled with the right physical actions and the right choices and real sincere desire to change, then we see that we can be working with both realms at the same time. It's a very powerful recipe for change and renewal. Every human being has the ability to correct themselves, which means I do not need to be today the same person I was yesterday. I can start with a clean slate. Now, with this knowledge of the fundamental principles, spiritual properties of water and change, now we can go back into the biblical text and we can understand the stories. Okay? It's because every time God wants to renew the creation, it is water that he uses. So we see that we have the flood, which is the 40 days and 40 nights of flooding using water as a change of status for humanity. We see that Moses is on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights, and there is not just fire as in lightning, there's also thunder and water, and so it's fire and water essentially that he's using. But most importantly is the crossing of the Red Sea. When the Hebrew slaves, when the Israelites were changing status from 300 years of slavery to now free people who are liberated, we use the symbol of water, the crossing of the water. It's a rebirth. Here in beings, when a female gives birth, her waters break. And there is a birth canal by which the new soul, the new person is being birthed into the world. So too with the Red Sea. There is a breaking of the water and there is a crossing through the birthing canal so that we change status. So water, what is the connection between water and the number 40 is that every letter in the Hebrew alphabet is another spiritual property. And the Sefer Yetzirah, the Kabbalah, says that there are 3 mother letters of the alphabet. That's Aleph, which is Avir, which is wind or air. There is Shin, which is fire. Shh. And even the letter Shin looks like flames that are heading towards. And then there is Mem, that is water. Right? The letter Mem represents water. And what is the number of the letter Mem? It's the number 40. So anytime you see the number 40 appearing in the text, it's symbolic. Again, the Torah is a prophetic text. We're supposed to understand the imagery and the symbolism, because that's what prophets essentially use for prophecy, right? Symbolism, imagery. When your higher self is talking to your lower self via the realm of dreams, it's not giving instructions that are verbal or linguistic. It is giving you images and pictures and symbols. That's how the higher soul speaks to the lower soul, through the realm of images and pictures. So in the Torah, we have the images, we have the symbols, but we also have the numbers. And the numbers are not necessarily supposed to be taken literally. They're supposed to convey a concept. The number 40, which is the Hebrew letter Mem, which is water and change, represents transformation, the changing of status. The number 7 repeats itself all the time in the Torah. The number 70 repeats itself. As we saw earlier in the video, we have the number 18. These are numbers that are conveying concepts, not necessarily to be taken literally, but to be understood as truth on a conceptual level. So the Talmud says that nothing can stand as a barrier to teshuvah. Teshuvah is returning to your essential godly self. So on this note, I want to share my blessing, my wish, and my hope that we as a humanity, we as individuals, we continue walking the right road. We continue knowing the difference between right and wrong. We continue to take the higher choice versus the lower one, because that's essentially what we're here to do. God implemented in pre-creation the idea of change, the idea of growth, and the idea of always returning and cleansing yourself despite the errors that we've made in our lives. So may we continue on the path from strength to strength, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Stay blessed. everybody. Thank you for viewing and appreciating the teachings. I'm Jewish, this is my mikvah. A mikvah is a ritual, spiritual immersion in a natural body of water. We don't have a lot of pictures or videos about it because we don't do it with clothes on. So obviously this is post-mikvah immersion, but I really highly recommend for anyone who hasn't used the ritual of water immersion in order to cleanse and purify and renew yourself, do so. It's a natural body of water, a river, a waterfall, a beach, anything that has a natural body of water. Just go there and do your meditation, set your intentions, offer your prayers, do your imagery. It's beautiful stuff. Anyways, thank you for viewing the channel. Don't be a stranger. Join the tribe. Please subscribe. Take care.